Hi, welcome back to Doing Outdoors. I'm Benj, and today we're going to talk about the Esse Ironheart, and that is our wood-burning cook stove, if you like, that keeps the whole of our ground floor heated through the winter, and also allowing us to cook on 2 hot plates and an oven. I'm going to give you an in-depth tour of the stove. I've been living with it now for 4 years. We get on really well with it. It's a bit of a beast. Takes a bit of learning, shall we say. But still, very good stove. So first of all, let's have a look over the stove itself. We've got on top, move the kettles out of the way. So on top we've got 2 hot plates. The first one is directly above the firebox, making it the hottest hot plate out of the 2. The one to the right is a cooler hot plate. In the centre of the stove we've got the flue. At the bottom of that there's a damper. Push it forward to de-restrict it, pull forward to restrict the flow. So on the front of the fire we have the firebox, and inside the firebox we're running with the extended wood burning box. When we bought the fire we had the grill, but with the extended wood burning box you can fit more wood in, get a better bed of ash which gives you a much better burn. We also have a diverter. When it's pulled out, the flue gases go straight up the flue. When it's pushed in, it diverts, going across the top of the 2 hot plates and then around the oven, heating the oven. That's a guard to stop you burning your legs when you're cooking on the stove. We have an oven. That's a cleaning hatch. And then an ash pan door. It's got 2 air vents, top air and bottom air. So this is the bottom air vent. It's on a simple plate that's sliding over holes that are made in the bottom of the stove. Fully open, fully closed. Now I had to make some modifications to this because when I first got the stove it was letting far too much air in the bottom of the fire, making the fire burn hot constantly. You couldn't have very much control, and if you look down at the bottom handle you can see where I've ground some of the metal away so that it will cover all the vents correctly. When it was in its original position you can see there are still air gaps. Now that was how the handle butt up to the side of the fire, still left an air gap, so I cut some of the metal away so it slides over and completely covers the air vents, giving better control but still not the best control. So we're going to start the fire now, and first of all, to make sure that you're going to get off to a good start, you need some well seasoned wood. Now at the minute, because we've got our own woodland and there's tons of dead wood up there, we're burning very seasoned wood. Until I had the wood I'd burn nothing but pallet wood essentially on this fire, which was very good. It's all free. I've never paid for any wood to heat this house. But now we've got some proper timber, or proper firewood. Does a much better job, but you must make sure that it's dry, otherwise you're really going to struggle starting this essay. So get your nice dry firewood, and what I do is make a bed at the bottom of the fire. So now we've got a few logs at the bottom of the fire. We're going to get one of the trusty homemade fire lighters, as shown in a previous video, and some really dry kindling. I'm just going to put the kindling on the side for now. And what you want to do is make sure that you've got enough wood in the fire when you're starting it to get the fire up to temperature, so when you come to load up next, you've got a good bed of embers, and you're not messing about. This fire has a tendency to blow smoke in your house if you're not careful. But one thing that we do need to make sure is that, first of all, this flue diverter is out, so that the flue gases are going straight up the flue and not around the oven, because that does restrict the flow of the gases. Make sure that the top air vent is fully open, and you can open the bottom vent, but like I said, with the ash in the bottom of the pan, it does restrict that flow, but any little helps. And then you also need to make sure that the flue damper on the flue on the top of the stove is in the open position. I'll light the fire lighter. And once that's established, place on the logs that are in the bottom of the stove, and then build some kindling around that. And then, just for good measure, I'll put some more logs on top. Just to make sure that when it goes good. And shut the door. And in fact, what I do is I'll leave the door slightly ajar until the fire is fully established. It guarantees you get a good fast burn. So the fire's only been going probably 5 minutes, and already it's very well established, and that's because we're using very well seasoned wood. If you're using the likes of pallet wood, that's extremely well seasoned. You'll have no problem starting the fire with that. The only problem with that is that it doesn't leave you much of an ember. Now, one tip I have got with the Esse is that when you are reloading the fire, make sure that there isn't any flame left in the firebox and that it is just ember. Otherwise, there's a good chance that you're going to smoke yourself out. That's something that took me a while to learn. It's a different beast from many other wood stoves. It's quite complicated. What you saw me do at the startup of the fire is that I pulled this lever out. That's the flue diverter. So that's making all the gases from the firebox now go straight up the flue, only bypassing this first hot plate. Once this fire is a bit more well established, I'll close that. That's sending the gases around the oven and then up the flue. And you can see now, just from closing that, how much the fire has died. It's not, although it's burning very well. I'll pull that out again. And the fire increases. Just showing you how much it slows the draw down by sending it around the oven. I can only think that it's picking up a couple of leaks going around the oven. So now the fire is a bit better established, the door is still ajar, so I'll shut that too. Slowing the amount of fresh air the fire's getting only by a little bit because the top air vent's still open and the bottom air vent is still open. One thing I've not spoke about yet is the temperature gauge on the oven door. Now, it's not very accurate on this stove. So what I did, I bought a cheap thermometer that goes inside an oven, and I've tested it in my electric oven against the thermostat in that, and it is correct. The one on the front of the Esse isn't. So if you do want to cook on the Esse, from a cold start, it's going to take you about 2 hours to get the oven up to temperature, up to about 180, 200 degrees Celsius, which isn't too bad, but you just have to give a lot more thought into what you're doing if you want to cook on a stove like this. Even as much as heating water on the hot plate. If the fire's raging, which you probably won't have all the time unless you've got a boiler, but the fire will be burning a lot slower most of the time. So what I do is I keep a kettle on top of the hot plate cover full of water, and although the hot plate cover is insulated, it will keep the water in the kettle about 50 degrees. So when you do want to make some boiling water, it doesn't take very long, even on a cool stove, to bring that up to boiling. Obviously, if you've got the fire raging, getting the oven up to temperature, the hot plate on top is going to be extremely hot. That kettle holds nearly 2 litres of water, and it will boil it from cold, I don't know, probably 10 degrees, to boiling in about 60 seconds. Right, so the fire's been going probably an hour now, and the first lot of wood that I've lit is down to nothing but embers. So now's the right time to open the fire door and put some more wood on. But one thing you must do to try and stop any ash or smoke coming into the house is pull out the flue diverter. Now, because the fire's been going a while, all these are pretty hot now. So what you'll need is the tool that you get with the fire. It's got a hook on there to push and pull the flue diverter, and a tool to open the door. Although there's a bit of flame there, it's not giving off any smoke. And what you can do, load some fresh in. 2 or 3 pieces at a time is what I'll usually do. And then when the wood's in and you've closed the door, put the flue diverter on again to get those fumes going round the stove. Dirty dog. But for me, there's nothing more satisfying than fetching your own wood, splitting it, building the fire, and then cooking your own food, especially if it's food that you've grown, meat that you've grown, vegetables out the garden. Creating a meal out of your own hard work and cooking it on a proper fire that you've had to go out, source the wood, go to the trouble of making it. I don't know, just makes everything taste a little bit better to me. I'm not totally self-sufficient on wood. We still have a combi boiler that gives us hot water and does the heating upstairs, but we're nearly out the other side of the winter where I am, and I can honestly say we've probably only had the central heating on twice in 4 months. This Esse not only heats the ground floor very, very well, but an amount of the heat does go upstairs. It's not toasty, but it's warm enough. There's no frost on the inside of the windows, that's for sure. So good enough for me. So I hope after watching this video you understand a little bit more about the Esse Ironheart, and if there's a few questions that you're asking yourself about it, they've been answered here. I highly recommend it. It's a very good stove, but it just takes a little bit of getting used to. So if you've got any more questions that you'd like to ask that I haven't covered about the Esse, just write a comment. I'll get back to you as soon as I can. But as far as this video goes, that's it from me, and I'll see you on the next one. Don't forget to subscribe.